interaction with American Childhood Cancer Organization in the Northwest was at their annual auction and dinner fundraiser. I was 26 years old and expecting my first child, a daughter we would name Marley. Looking back, I can remember how I felt after the event. It was heavy and emotional, and because of that, I wasn't sure I'd attend another one in the future. So I thank all of you for being here and supporting this organization, because childhood cancer isn't something that people like to think about or talk about, and I know that I thought that it would never happen to us until it did. The second interaction we had with ACCOIN would begin October 19th, 2012, 2 days after Marley's 4th birthday. She had finished up a round of antibiotics for strep throat. She had a rash that wouldn't go away and was complaining of pain in her legs. I took her to urgent care and they decided to draw some blood, and we anxiously waited for those results. When the doctor came back, the only thing she said to me was, "Her platelets are extremely low, you need to go to the emergency room now." And I had no idea what was going on. We arrived at Sacred Heart emergency room and they drew another blood sample, and we did our best to keep Marley calm and entertained, but nothing in emergency rooms seems to happen very quickly. So there we sat with a sick feeling deep in our stomachs, waiting for results. After hours of waiting, the doctor finally came back and in a hushed voice asked to speak to us in another room. We knew it was bad. No one goes to another room for good news. The heart-stopping diagnosis was delivered in a simple sentence. "It looks like leukemia." We were completely devastated, and our whole future was turned upside down. Time essentially stopped, and we were in a state of shock. Our seemingly healthy daughter had cancer, and we had no idea how we were going to tell her. Shortly after the initial diagnosis, they transferred us to the Peds Oncology unit, where we would stay for the next 35 days. The hospital became home. We entered a whole new world as we met doctors and nurses, learned about AML leukemia, chemo treatments, and scheduled surgery to place a Hickman line in my daughter's perfect little chest. It was all so overwhelming. We didn't know where to turn or how we were going to get through this. A few days later, a parent from ACCOIN came to Marley's hospital room with a big bag. It was stuffed with books about childhood cancer, a binder to organize medical documents, gift cards for gas and groceries, notebooks, pens, a blanket, Cozy the cat, and toiletries, which were great for this mama who hadn't showered in days. She explained a little bit about what they did and listened as I broke down sobbing, telling her what we were facing. I didn't realize in that moment that they had their own stories and their own children who had battled cancer. ACCOIN would become a huge support throughout our journey. They had been in our shoes, and they understood. Marley's chemotherapy was intense. She would be in the hospital for a month and home for just a week in between. I would see Mary Ann from ACCOIN frequently in the hospital. She would stop by and see if I had a utility bill that needed to be paid, let me know that their support group night was coming up, or invite me to the monthly support lunch, and I almost always refused the invitations. I guess I thought we had the whole cancer thing figured out. Marley was adjusting well, because that's what kids do. And we had all the support we needed from our large family and network of friends and coworkers. But Mary Ann continued to check on us, and I remember it was late in November, and she asked if we would like to be a part of the ACCOIN adoptive family. I refused. She asked me again, and again I refused, telling her there were others who needed it more. She asked me one last time, and I guess you could say she won that argument, because a few days before Christmas, we were showered with gifts from a sponsor who wanted to make a difference in the lives of a childhood cancer family. And we are so thankful for that experience. Marley's treatment was scheduled to be over in March 2013 after 4 grueling rounds of chemotherapy, a chickenpox scare, and a bout of RSV that almost killed her. We said our goodbyes to nurses and were cautiously optimistic as we headed home to figure out what normal was. It was very short-lived. We hadn't even been out of the hospital for 2 weeks when we got a call from the doctor. They found cancer cells in her bone marrow again. Our only shot at a cure was a bone marrow transplant. We were terrified. The odds were not in our favor, but odds don't mean much when you're talking about your own child. So we had all the hope in the world. I was told Marley was lucky. She had multiple 10 out of 10 bone marrow matches, so we prepared for that move to Seattle. ACCOIN's support never stopped. While in Seattle, we would receive cards with gift cards for groceries and gas, and phone calls checking in on us. Marley was quickly a favorite patient in Seattle. With her bright blue eyes and loving personality, she breezed through transplant, even making it look easy as she drank Starbucks hot chocolate and ate pastries almost daily. One of her doctors would joke and ask if we had even given her the chemotherapy. After just 25 days post-transplant, the doctors let us leave the hospital. Marley even rode her bike to the car. Weeks later, she would have a biopsy, and they would tell us that her transplant was not successful. We were devastated again. They offered us a trial chemo to try to get her back into remission long enough to have a second transplant. We gave it a try, but after a month, they found that the cancer was progressing. We had to make the tough decision to come home to Spokane, where Marley wanted to be. We knew that there wasn't much time, so we got busy making memories. Marley celebrated her 5th birthday at Build-A-Bear, went to Disneyland to meet princesses, and ACCOIN even made it possible for us to get married. 3 short weeks after our wedding, Marley went to heaven. It was December 12th, 2013. Our lives were instantly changed again as we were reeling from grief and loss. Not only was our precious daughter gone, but there was no more hospital, no more doctors and nurses, no more meds to dispense. The normal we had become used to was gone. There had been one constant in that journey, and that's ACCOIN. Even when everything else was gone, they were there. I once heard someone refer to the volunteers and staff as ambassadors of hope. This really resonates with me as I reflect on our journey that our family has been on. Their support never wavers. They offer new patient bags, support nights for families, grief support group, teen survivor group, birthday club for kids and their siblings, hero beads, family day camp, adopt a family, the summer party, an annual Christmas party and reunion, emergency funds, and it all comes from parents who get it, who've walked a mile in our shoes. If there was ever a worthy cause to give to, this is it. I don't know of another organization that supports local families the way that ACCOIN does. Thank you so much for opening your hearts to this incredible organization and for coming today. It's donors like you that make it possible for ACCOIN to provide programs and support for the last 40 years and beyond.